Hey guys, I'm Sarah Louise and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to do a video on the whole man versus bear debate. So the reason I'm doing it now and not before is because I've actually had a little bit of a change of heart on what I think about the man versus bear. So if anyone hasn't heard of it, it was this post that was going around on social media. I never even saw the original post, but it was asking women whether they would rather bump into a bear or a man if they were alone in the woods. And the majority of women put bear, so it started this whole obviously man versus women thing going on, which is a big theme at the moment, you know, men and women blaming each other for all of their problems. But there are differences between men and women, and at the time when I first read that, I thought that's ridiculous, because who wouldn't pick a man over meeting a bear? I obviously thought if I come face to face with a bear, there's some kind of, it could be very mixed what I'm going to meet, right? Whereas if I come face to face with a man, there's probably only 2% of people in the population, or men in the population, that have really negative intentions towards women, where they would want to attack you or threaten your personal safety. So I thought, of course, you would pick, you know, wanting to see the man versus the bear. And then I had a situation that I've actually already made a video about, so I'm not going to repeat too much about the situation, but I sold something on Marketplace, and the person coming to collect it really made me feel unsafe. I felt very, very unsafe, to the point where I reported the incident to the police, just so they had a record of it in case it happened to anybody else and, you know, something ever came from it. So this situation obviously involved a male, and I realised in that moment, if that was a woman, I probably wouldn't have felt as unsafe. I probably wouldn't have had any of the same feelings. I would have probably just immediately thought they're a scammer, or they're just having a joke with me. And that I do, as a woman, have very different feelings about men and women. And this is because, as a woman in society, I have, you know, as much as we can want to say whatever, I am physically less strong than the majority of men. So every time I'm in a situation where a man might wish harm on me, then I am vulnerable, and I have very little ability to defend myself. And this is something that, as women, we walk around with all the time. We do walk around all the time with a little bit of a fear that we have a vulnerability. And I actually think men probably don't walk around with that fear. Maybe every now and again, if they're in a really dodgy space, or they're in a country where people have been known to be sort of held ransom. But I don't think in the West, a man day to day walks around sort of fearful of his safety. If you do, I would love to hear in the comments, actually, because I'm always open-minded. Maybe some guys do walk around in that frame of mind. I don't even feel I'm a particularly nervous person, but, you know, when I'm getting off the tube and it's late at night and I'm walking home, I'm always aware. I'm hyper vigilant. I'm listening for sounds. I'm listening for footsteps. If there's somebody behind me, I'm constantly checking back, and I'm trying to get out of their way as quickly as possible. And I suppose there is something in me that always sort of has I don't have an expectation of the worst. I'm just hyper vigilant of what the worst case scenario could be, so that I can try and avoid it as much as possible. And maybe that's something that men actually don't experience, because they feel there's a good fair chance they could take another man on physically unless they have a weapon. So I started to understand that if I was in the woods and I heard some footsteps, I probably would also go to the worst place, right? I'd be afraid, whatever the hell it was, whether it was a bear or a man. But anyway, a bit more I want to say about the situation, because that situation that happened to me, where I had this massive fear, I also felt safe because of men. And that is the irony, isn't it? There were two workmen on a lunch break that were watching the gate where I was supposed to be meeting this man who I was getting really, really bad vibes about. And the only reason I even stayed there was because of these two workmen on lunch. And as I said in my video, if they went, I was going too. I felt safe because they were there. So how weird was that? In that moment, I felt threatened and safe simultaneously by men. And I think this is a wider thing. If I was in the woods and I was desperate and I needed help, and I saw a man in the distance, I'd be like, help! You know, I'd be so happy to see them, and I'd feel totally protected by the fact I could see a man. Yeah, also, if I was in the woods alone and I heard footsteps and I saw a man, I would be terrified, and I would feel absolutely, like, I'd think the worst. And that just is how it is. And like I said, there's nothing that we can really probably change about that. There's always going to be people in society with the best of intentions. There's always going to be people in society with nefarious intentions. And boy, do we hope we always meet the ones with the good intentions. I guess my point of this video somewhere is that we are all different and we all have to try and understand one another's experience, because men feel attacked from that man versus bear, and they feel like women are just having a go at men. And I think men could lean into the understanding more that as a woman, we do experience the world differently to men experience it, simply because we are physically less capable. And maybe a skinny guy would experience the world differently to an incredibly built, muscular man as well. You know, we all have a different experience on the world. Maybe it's a little bit more about empathy, and rather than constantly attacking one another, understanding that each gender and each person have their own unique challenges. I think I was even guilty myself of maybe not being as empathic with how some women feel, because I think we all have different levels of fear when we go out into the world, and we all have different past experiences that make different fears more highlighted as well. If somebody has had a negative experience with a man, then that is going to be at their forefront, and they're going to be even more hypervigilant and even more afraid. And if somebody's had none, then they're going to be a lot more kind of out in the world, not really thinking about it. And every woman is different. I have female friends that don't think about this at all. They walk around on their own at night all the time, and it doesn't cross their mind. I wish I had that same level of inner safety, because I don't. I am quite a hypervigilant person. I'm always very aware of what's going on around me. I'm always like thinking of how to get out of a situation before it happens. We have to be a little bit more empathic with how people experience the world and their experience due to their past as well. It doesn't mean everybody has to walk around on eggshells. It doesn't mean people have to change. What can men do about this? Probably nothing. You know, if you're a man and you've got good intentions out there in the world, you just keep on doing your thing, right? I'm just sharing a perspective and a feeling that as a woman, we do operate and see the world a little bit differently. And we do have a feeling as we go about our business that a man might never actually have to feel. And I think what I'm trying to say is that even though if you come face to face with a bear and face to face with a man, there's actually, in my opinion, I'm sure statistically, probably more chance of it going wrong with a bear than a man, because most men in the world don't have bad intentions, and bears are sort of not conscious, so they're just going to react to their environment. So if you meet a bear and it's happy, full and whatever, it's probably going to go well. If you meet a bear and it's got cubs or it feels threatened in any way, it's probably not going to go well. So I'd probably rather take my chance with a human. But having said that, there's a certain energy in us as a woman that, although that might actually be obviously what logically you would think from the outside, but the way we move in the world is a little bit different. And we do constantly have to walk around feeling that same sort of, how a man might feel facing a bear is probably how a woman feels facing a random man. We don't know what their intentions are until they act, right? And whilst the majority of men's intentions are, I'm sure, absolutely honourable and great, there is that small percentage of male intention that isn't. And what do we do with that? I don't know. Men that have good intentions, they're just going to go about their day, aren't they? They can't really change anything because of this video, so I don't know what the advice is, but it's probably just having that little bit of understanding that as women and men, we all see the world quite differently, and even one man versus another man sees the world quite differently, and maybe we all just need to learn to be a bit more empathic with everyone's experiences, me included. Anyway, bye for now, and thank you for tuning into my video. I'm sorry it was a little bit disjointed and all over the place, but I just wanted to come and share my opinion because it was really present for me after having that experience. It all just kind of came into my thought process. And yeah, bye bye.